One whole glorious week of fishing, hunting, camping, picnicking, stories, and sleeping in tents.
That sucks already. Let's see.
At last the day had come. The children were to...
How could I manage that? And the... I need to insert and the. Hate that. Okay, mute. This track, I'll stick it in right there. And the. See if that works. And the. Okay. Normalize. And the. That sounds too high. And the. Should be and the. And the. So, novice mistake. Leaving out words. What the heck? Normalize. I've got to learn all the shortcuts. Okay. Ripple editing, I love you. I love you. Ripple editing. And
The children were to...
So I want to take you out. And the children.
Children were to leave.
And the children were to leave. And the children were to leave. Okay, I'm going to put that in. And do it myself. Okay. And the children were to leave
camp.
Okay. Okay. Mute. You be quiet. And the children were to leave. And the children were to leave. And the children were to leave. Come on.
And the children were to leave.
Item processing. Righto, why am I... Why? I don't want to hear that. I don't want to hear that. Why am I hearing my own audio? Can I stop that or what? Okay.
Children were to leave.
Okay.
The children were to leave camp in the cloud.
Okay. Can you just sit there for a minute? Ripple editing. You are beautiful.
Children were to leave camp in the clouds.
Camp in the clouds. And the children were to leave camp in the clouds.
Leave camp in the cloud.
Too close.
leave camp in the clouds. And the children were to leave camp in the clouds. They had been there for one whole glorious week of fishing, hunting, camping.
Okay. They had been there for one whole glorious week of fishing, hunting, camping, picnicking. Stories. Wish I had a bigger screen.
Camp in the clouds. They had been there for one whole glorious week of fishing, hunting, camping, picnicking, stories, and sleeping in tents. Betty and Jimmy felt rather sober, for the time for them to go back to the city was drawing near. A week now and their good times for the summer would be over. Already the leaves were turning a little, and the air growing crisper every day. Indeed, up in camp in the clouds they had twice in the early morning to break the ice on the spring in order to get the water. And at night their blankets felt warm and cozy.
No.
And at night their blankets felt
Crap.
And at night the blankets felt warm and cozy. And at night the blankets felt warm and cozy. And at night the blankets felt warm and cozy. And at night the blankets felt warm and cozy.
Okay, no. Shortcut.
Woo. And at night the blankets felt warm and cozy. And at night their blankets felt warm and cozy.
Pop in there, buddy. Thank you. Okay, let's see how that fits.
And at night the blankets felt warm and cozy. Betty and Jimmy liked their city home.
Okay.
Warm and cozy. Betty and Jimmy liked...
Okay. Okay, ready? Let's go.
felt warm and cozy. Betty and Jimmy liked their city home, and after they were once in it, they enjoyed their schoolwork too. They had many friends, entertainments, parties, and made many expeditions to the zoo and to the parks. But somehow the happiest days of all the year came in the summer in Rangley Village. Every hour seemed precious to them now, and the fingers on Betty's right hand, the number of days that were left, were all too few. Even Jimmy, who cared less for the country than Betty did, was sorry, and the children were sorry to have them go. All through the cold white winter in Rangley Village they were expecting the Reese children and the old guide. With their coming, good times began, and this morning on which they were leaving camp, they felt rather blue. For although they expected to come back the next summer, as indeed they did, yet it seemed such a long, long time to wait. They followed Ben Gile single file down the...
So some space there.
Long time to wait. They followed Ben. Long time to wait. They followed Ben Gile single file down the mountain at a good pace, but without saying very much. By noon, they had reached the Dead River ponds and were ready for luncheon. "I think some of that birch, Tom," said Ben Gile, "would make a good fire for us." Tom, who was a famous wood chopper in winter, went off towards the tree, followed by lazy little Peter, who loved to see others work. Soon the chips were flying right and left. Suddenly there was a yell from Peter. Tom dropped his axe. Ben Gile hurried over to the boy, and the others crowded around. Tom was sure a splinter had gone into Peter's eye. The lad was holding onto his eye and jumping up and down with pain. But as Ben Gile was trying to make the boy take his hand away, Tom exclaimed, grabbed one hand with the other, and made for the pond. "It's hornets, Ben," he said, and before the others could say anything, he had clapped some mud onto his own hand and brought mud for Peter's eye, which he poulticed with this useful material and tied around it a big white handkerchief. Although Peter did not in the least like the bite, yet he felt rather proud of the bandage. And for the first time in his life, he too wanted to know about the creatures who would give so much pain.
Wait a sec.
Who would give so much pain?
Twit bucket. Who could give?
Who could give so much pain? 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 Who would give so much pain? Who could give so much pain? Who would give so much pain?
Why is that so weak? Has it not been normalized?
Bandage. And for the first time in his life, he too wanted to know about the creatures who could give so much pain.
Oh, that sounds stupid. Mute.
Who could give so much pain? Who could give so much pain? Who could give so Who could give so much pain? Who could give so much pain? Who could give so much pain?
That's what it says, right?
Wanted to know about the creatures who could give so much pain. Who could give so much pain? Ouch!
Why does that look so loud?
He too wanted to know about the creatures who could give so much pain. Would give so much.
So much, shut up.
Tell us.
What the heck is that? There's silence. Not normalize communication.
Give so much pain. Who could give so much pain?
pain. 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 So much pain. I don't know how to normalise. It's getting too loud. I don't know how to custom normalise. Well, normalise. Shift control in. It looks too loud. That's too loud. You go away. Maybe that will help.
Creatures who could give so much pain.
Creatures who should record it from there.
Wanted to know about the creatures.
Tell us, sir. Okay. Okay, where was I?
Wanted to know about the creatures. 2 wanted to know. And for the first time in his life, he too wanted to know about the creatures.
He too wanted to know about the creatures who could give so much pain. He too. Pete. And for the first time in his life, he too wanted to know about the creatures who could give so much pain. He too wanted to know about the creatures who could give so much pain. He too wanted to know about the creatures who could give so much pain.
Wanted to know about the creatures. 2 he too wanted.
You can go down there, you can go up there.
In his life, he too wanted to. In his life, he too wanted to know. And for the first time in his life, he too wanted to know about the creatures who could give so much pain.
I'm not convinced.
Yet he felt rather proud of the bandage. And for the first time in his life, he too wanted to know about the.
He too wanted to know. Goodbye. He too wanted to know. He too wanted to know. He too wanted to know about the creatures who could give so much pain.
Time in his life, he too wanted to know about.
Don't be silly. What happened there? What?
Tell us, tell us so much pain. Tell us. First time in his life, he too wanted to know about the creatures who could give so much pain.
That's staying. That's a bit loud. I don't know why.
And for the first time in his life, he too wanted to know about the creatures who could give so much pain.
Still a little bit loud. Was that 3? -3 decibels. Try that.
And for the first time in his life,
He too wanted to know about the creatures who could give so much pain.
"Tell us, sir."
Mm-hmm. I don't know what this is. Oh, there it is. Small piece of silence. I'm using my Zoom H5 right now. Still getting used to all the features. Someone lent me a little mixing desk, but I realise you don't even need that when you've got the H5. It's awesome. Right, I'm actually just doing a proof listen at the moment. And did you get the H5 or the H6? Because I know there's a H6 and it's got super too many features. It's another $100, so I didn't bother.
In his life,
He too wanted to know about the creatures who could give so much pain.
"Tell us, sir," the children cried, "about the wasps while dinner is cooking." So Ben Gile, who had left the cooking to the other guides, gathered the children and Mrs. Reese about him and began. "One day, last fall, I saw high up in a tree near the pond the pretty grey nest of Mrs. Vesper Wasp. It did not look like a real house with windows in it and steps leading up to it, but there it hung, swinging in the bare branches, its walls of pretty soft grey blending so beautifully with the pale blue sky. I wondered whether any of the wasp family was at home,
Sounds
but
like
the house was too high for me to reach.
David Attenborough.
So I went away to find a long pole with which to knock. With my long pole, I knocked gently at first, then louder and louder, but no one stirred within. So I poked harder, trying to break off a strong branch which ran straight through the top of the house. At last it broke off, and down came the grey house almost into my arms. It was big and round like a Japanese lantern. Guess of what it was made? Just paper. But not our kind of paper. It was wasp paper. Mrs. Vesper and her family make this paper out of wood pulp, which they get by scraping off the weathered wood from trees and fences. Of course, this old wood is of various colours, but that makes the house so much prettier. One wasp comes back with its burden of woody pulp rolled up in a little pellet. These it takes and spreads in thin ribbons along the edges of the wall which is being made.
No. Edge, not edges. No.
Ribbons along the edges of the wall. Along the edge. Along the edge. Luke. Along the edge, Luke. Along the edge.
Along the edge of the wall. Why did I say edges? If I was really clever, I could take out the s. I bet I can't.
Edges of the wall.
Nah. No way.
Edge of the wall.
Okay, here we go. Let's hope it sounds the same.
Edge of the wall. Edge of the wall.
Oh no, it's too big. Why does it do that? Okay, let's try -3 decibels.
Of the wall.
What was that? Oh, I've got a cup of tea here.
Edge of the wall.
Goodbye. Unmute. Please work.
Ribbons along the edge of the wall, which
Sounds a bit harsh.
thin ribbons along the edge of the wall, which
No,
along the edge of the wall.
not so harsh.
Thin ribbons along the edge of the wall.
That's what I need to do. No! Don't do that. This...
Thin ribbons along the edge of the wall, which is being...
No. Yeah, well, yes, but no. Okay, mute.
Thin ribbons along the edge of the wall. Along the edge of the wall. Thin ribbons along the... along the edge of... thin ribbons along the... thin ribbons along... along the edge of the wall. Breads in thin ribbons along the...
Let's put it there and compare.
thin ribbons along the edge of...
Oh, look at that there. Plus 5.55 decibels. So, what's that mean? Can't really squish it that much.
along the edge of... thin ribbons along the edge of...
I think it sounds too different. Turn my microphone down a bit.
Thin ribbons.
Where's my mixer?
Thin ribbons along the edge of the wall.
Where was it? So, for the sake of getting rid of the S, just one plural S, I could say the whole line again, and it's going to make it sound like the same take. That's the trick. Not very good at doing that yet. So if I listen to that, no.
Breads in thin ribbons along the edge of... thin ribbons along the edge of the wall.
Thin ribbons. Where is that line? Here we go. Okay.
This it takes and spreads in thin ribbons along the edge of the wall. Along the edge of the wall, which is being made.
Did I even say that?
The edge of the wall, which is being made. Along the edge of the wall, which is being made.
I think
This it takes and spreads in...
I'm going to just say that whole thing again.
This it takes and spreads in thin ribbons along the edge of the wall, which is being made.
That sounds better anyway. I said it crap the first time. All right, here we go. And looking at my script.
This it takes and spreads in thin ribbons along the edge of the wall, which is being made.
No, what are you doing? Not up there. Oh, you bumface. Here.
Burden of woody pulp rolled up in a little pellet. This it takes and spreads in thin ribbons along the edge of the wall.
Yes. Okay. Mute. Okay. Are you ready?
This it takes and spreads in thin ribbons along the edge of the wall which is being made.
I wonder. If I copy that, paste that there, join these guys together. What if I normalize them together? That might be good. Use that other one as a reference.
Of course, Of course, this old wood is of various colours, but that makes the house so much prettier.
Are you ready?
This it takes and spreads in thin ribbons along the edge of the wall which is being made.
Right. Now let's see if I said it correctly.
This it takes and spreads in thin ribbons along the edge of the wall which is being made.
Okay. Move out of my way.
This it takes and spreads in...
Okay, you can rack off.
You're going in there.
Okay.
Rolled up in a little pellet. This it takes and spreads in thin ribbons back with its burden. One wasp comes back with its burden of woody pulp rolled up in a little pellet. This it takes and spreads in thin ribbons along the edge of the wall which is being made.
Okay, stop. Rack off. So that's a piece of silenceness. You can stay. You're my friend. What's that?
This edge is dark.
What? Okay.
Ribbons along the edge of the wall which is being made. Perhaps this edge is dark grey. Then off it flies for more material, while another takes its place with a pellet of light grey, which is soon skillfully moulded onto the edge. Sometimes the outer wall consists of several layers of this wasp paper, which is strong and waterproof. Within the wall are many stories of cone, built like different floors in our own houses. Early in the spring, Mrs. Vespa Wasp, who has been passing the
One sec. What did I say?
wall are many stories of cone, built like different floors in our own houses. Early in the spring, Mrs. Vespa Wasp, who has been passing the cold winter days tucked away in a warm crevice somewhere, comes out and finds a site for her summer home. She begins this as a very small and simple one, starting with just a few rooms fastened to a branch of a tree. Here she lays an egg in each little room, then brings in food for the new baby wasps which are in the making. The kind of food which is stored away depends on the kind of wasps.
Depends upon.
Stored away depends on the kind of
Depends upon.
stored away depends on the kind of depends upon the kind of wasp.
Oh. That wasn't funny.
Depends upon the kind of wasp.
That was too purty.
Depends upon the kind of wasp. Depends upon the kind of wasp.
Hey, where'd you go? Hey. It's gone. Hey.
Depends upon the...
Don't go. I need you. Okay. No. Yep. Not yet.
Some spiders.
Okay, stop it. You're being silly. Okay.
Depends upon the kind of wasp. Depends upon the kind of wasp.
I gotta get backwards. Yes. Sometimes, yes, it's easier to record the whole line. Trying to get it to sound the same.
Depends upon the kind of wasp.
I'm still learning, mate.
Depends on the kind of wasps.
Oh. Depends upon the kind of wasps. Right, the kind of food which is stored away
Depends upon the kind of wasps. The kind of food which is stored away depends upon the kind of wasps.
You mean like that?
Kind of wasps. The kind of food which is stored away depends upon the kind of wasps.
Now, the thing that bothers me, if I normalize this, it doesn't use the rest of the track as a... It doesn't normalize it with the rest of the track, so bang, goes real big. So it sounds louder, I think.
The kind of food which is stored away.
Here, 14, it's normalized it to 14 decibels. Compare that to other parts of the track. For example, up here, 7. It depends on the piece of audio. 9. So in comparison, it's louder than the others. So I'm going to undo the normalize. Undo the normalize. I'm going to copy that big chunk there down into this track. And no, come back, matey. I want you guys to join up, be friends. So if I normalize them together, it makes no difference. It's not even funny. Well, I'll bring it down. Maybe 3 decibels. I'm not very technical. Okay.
Some like beetles. Some.
Okay, yep, it's going in there. It'd be nice if I had a big screen rather than a tiny laptop screen. I could have done that in one click and drag. Okay, let's check the audio level.
Kind of wasps. The depends on the kind of.
So we're getting rid of that.
Kind of food which is stored away. The kind of.
Goodbye.
The kind of. In the making. The kind of food which is stored away depends upon the kind of wasps. Some like beetles.
A little bit louder.
The kind of food which is stored away depends upon the kind of wasps. Some like beetles, some spiders, some caterpillars, and others grasshoppers and cicadas. As in the bee family, the first children are all workers, because Mrs. Vespa Wasp needs assistance in building up the home and feeding the children. This first home is small, not nearly large enough for the growing family, so new rooms must be built at once. These are added onto the first ones until there is a good-sized layer of them. If Mrs. Wasp should go on making this upper story larger and larger, it would be buffeted about by the wind and rain, and perhaps broken. So the family starts a second story under the first. On the underside of the top floor, some of the cells are broken away, and a stem is made to start the next floor, and so on, until there are 4 or 5 combs in the house. They are always building the house over, tearing down the walls to make room for new floors. But this does not make the house unsafe in the meantime, as the walls are not connected with the floors, but form a loose envelope around them. Later in the season, after the family has become very large, some of the upper cells are torn out, making a nice warm attic where the family may go to keep out of the wind and rain. They dislike the cold and wet very much.
Oh, so far,
I carried this big house to my cabin with me, so that I might look it over and see just how it was arranged. Very carefully I cut away a little of the outer wall until I had a place large enough to look through. Guess what I saw lying cuddled down in many of these rooms?
That was a bit loud.
These rooms.
In comparison?
Large enough to look through. Guess what I saw lying cuddled?
I think I got a bit close to the microphone.
Large enough to look through. Guess what I saw lying cuddled down? Large enough to look through. Guess what I saw lying cuddled down in many of these rooms? Little soft white baby wasps. When the Vespa family are grown up, they are called hornets. And Peter and Tom know how hornets sting. I was not afraid of the babies, but was not sure that all the wasps were out. It was a cold day.
Wait a minute. Yes. Yes. Did you pick up on that? Another stupid little mistake. Old. Old.
Sure that all the wasps were out.
I wonder if I could stick in old.
Wasps were out.
Old. Let's try it. Old. All I want to say is old. Old. Old like me. Old. $23. I'm going to try something. Old.
The wasps were out. Wasps were out. Wasps were out.
Cut that right there.
Wasps were.
And trim that right there. It's going to fit right in there. And
All the wasps were out. All the wasps.
all the old. All the old. All the old.
All the old wasps
Okay, no.
were out.
Mm-hmm.
The wasps were out.
Right. Let's be serious. Come on.
Sure that all the wasps were out. But was not sure that all the wasps were out.
But was not sure. But was not sure. No! Stop being like that. Now, what was I saying? But was not sure that all the old wasps were out. But was not sure that all the old wasps were out. But was not sure that all the old wasps were out. Okay. What's that say?
Wasps were out. Babies,
But was not sure that
babies,
but was not sure that
babies,
but was not sure that
babies,
but was not sure that all the old wasps were out. What? How'd that get there? How do you get... Who are you? Who are you?
but was not sure that all the old wasps were out. It was a cold day.
It was, wasn't it? It's very cold. It was a cold day. And wasps. Wasps. Ps, ps. I hate that word. Wasps. Ps. What? What's Clayton sending me messages for? Clayton, you should be in bed. Oh, good night. Good night, Cloyd. Thanks for dropping in, mate. Drop in any time. I don't know when I'm streaming next. What? V? I don't even know how I did that.
It was a cold.
Oh,
It was a. It was a.
what's that?
Out. It was a cold.
I don't like that syllable.
Out. It was a cold day, and wasps get stiff very quickly. So I watched carefully to see whether the warm air of the room would not limber up some stiff joints, which were perhaps in hiding upstairs in the house. Sure enough, in a few moments out crawled a worker, looking quite dazed and sheepish at the change in temperature. I did not wait for it to become thoroughly awake, but picked it up with a forceps and put it out of the window. I was kept busy, for 25 old fellows walked out thinking, no doubt, that they had made a mistake in the season, and that it was not time, after all, for them to die. All the wasp family, except the queens, expect to die, and do die in the autumn. I could not find either flies or spiders for the babies, and even if there had been a few about, I could not have used them, as there was no worker wasp to chew them soft and fine for them. So I made a nice appetizing syrup of sugar and water, and found that young wasps were eager for sweets as
We're as eager.
eager for
As. As. As.
as
As eager for sweets.
were as eager for
As eager for sweets. Yeah, just do it again. As eager for sweets.
as little
As eager for sweets. Uh-huh.
were as eager for sweets were as eager
We're as eager for sweets.
were as eager for sweet wasps were as eager for sweets as little children are. They worked their baby mouths busily as long as I had the patience to feed them. When the Vespa family are grown up, they eat honeydew from the little aphids, fruit juice, and the nectar from flowers. Or, if fortune favors them, they may gain entrance to Mrs. Honeybee's home and feast from her well-filled honeycombs. But the babies all eat insects which their mothers put in the little rooms beside the eggs. Mrs. Polistes is a cousin of Mrs. Vespa. She is long and slender, while Mrs. Vespa is rather broad. Her house is a much simpler affair. It has just one layer of rooms suspended by a stem from the underside of a porch, or maybe the eaves of a house. Are there solitary wasps? Asked Jimmy. Just as there are solitary bees? Many wasps prefer to live alone rather than in a big house with hundreds of others. They are like bees in their cleverness, knowing how to tunnel in wood, dig deep pits in the ground, or make nests of mud. Mr. Kellogg, a very wise man and young to be so wise, tells of one interesting little wasp called the thread-waisted sand digger, which lives in California in the salt marshes. These marshes are covered by plants, but in between are little smooth places covered with a glistening crust of salt. It is in these open spots that Mrs. Sand Digger makes her home. She has strong jaws, and with these she cuts out a neat little circle of salty crust. Then she begins to dig a tunnel, humming away to herself all the time. After the hole is ready, she carefully backs out of it and puts a circular door on it. Then she flies
Circular door on.
it. It. Door on it. And puts a circular door on.
Backs out of it and puts a circular door on.
Out of it and puts a circular door on it. And puts a circular door on.
Mm-hmm.
And puts a carefully backs out of it and puts a circular door on. Then she flies away.
Let's put a little bit more space in there. Just a little more space. That doesn't look... Okay, let's try that. Let's try that there.
And puts a circular door on. Then she flies away to find food to store up for her children. These babies like tender green inchworms. So Mrs. Digger Wasp hunts around until she finds a fat one, and then proceeds to paralyze it so that it will stay quietly in the house until the babies are ready to eat it. For baby digger wasps are little cannibals, preferring living caterpillars to any pre-digested spiders.
Let's take some space out there.
To
Too long. Let's put it here. Try that.
caterpillars to any
To any. How about a bit faster
to any pre-digested spiders or flies.
To any pre-digested. Because we don't want to eat pre-digested food, do we? That's something for the future.
To any pre-digested
To any pre-digested...
to any pre-digested spiders or
That sounds a bit dumb now.
to any pre-digested spiders or flies. It is very wonderful that Mrs. Digger Wasp knows where to sting a caterpillar in order to paralyze it and yet not kill it.
Oh, that's
But
very
she
wonderful.
does. Perhaps you remember that insects have knots of nerve cells connected by nerve threads extending from one end of the body to the other? Jimmy remembers that I pinched him to
Oh,
illustrate
yes.
this point. The knot on the top of the food tubes is the brain. Then underneath, there are usually 3 in the thorax and several in the abdomen. Well, Mrs. Digger Wasp stings one or more of these little knots, which we call ganglia. That paralyzes the young inchworm so that it becomes limp and helpless, but still lives. Then Mrs. Wasp picks it up and carries it to her house and packs it in the bottom of the tunnel. After putting in 5 or 10, she lays an egg, fastening it on the body of one of the worms. She backs out of the tunnel and flies off to collect balls of dirt. With these, she fills up the tunnel completely. Carefully, she puts the little round door on. One day, someone saw her do a curious thing. She wished to be very sure that the door was fast shut. Perhaps it did not fit well. So, she found a tiny pebble, held it in her jaws, and hammered the door down with it. Wasn't that a clever thing for a wasp to do? The door closed. This is all the attention she gives to baby digger wasps. She has put in plenty of food, even for the hungriest larva. Now it must look out for itself, eat, grow fat and strong, and then dig its way out into the salt marsh. Mrs. Eumenes is a good-looking little wasp dressed in black and yellow. She is a mason making a pretty mud vase for a home. The clay or mud she moistens, then molds it, little by little, into the vase, which she fastens onto a twig. Some mud daubers make small cylinders placed side by side. Into these they put stung spiders, after tearing off their legs to make sure they will not recover and run away before the eggs hatch. Sometimes the mud daubers plaster up the keyholes in a house and so have snug homes. One day last summer, I was sitting outside my cabin. I noticed a wasp. I was sitting outside my cabin. As I was sitting outside my cabin, I noticed a wasp. As I was sitting outside my cabin, I was sitting out. As I was sitting outside my cabin. No. As I was sitting outside my cabin, last summer, as I was sitting outside my cabin, I noticed a wasp carrying something green in its mouth. It came close to my head, then finally crawled up under the shingles on the side wall. All the afternoon it came and went, each time bringing something green. The next afternoon I was loading my guns and had put a hollow gun barrel on a table at my side. Soon I heard a whir of insect wings, and there, on the table, was my wasp friend. It walked up and down, examining very carefully the hollow barrel. Then cautiously it crawled in. In about 5 minutes, it crawled out again and flew away. Soon it was back with a piece of green in its mouth. It crawled into the barrel and left the green. 6 times the wasp did this. Then my curiosity became so great, I could wait no longer. When she flew away, I tapped the barrel on the table and emptied out 6 little green worms, all limp and still. But Mrs. Wasp was back again, and I guiltily withdrew. She had brought the 7th worm, and when she saw the 6th lying on the table, she was much puzzled. She went around and poked each one to see whether it was limp, fearing perhaps that she had not stung them hard enough. But, finding them helpless, she picked them up one by one and patiently carried them back into the gun barrel. 3 times I emptied them out, and 3 times she put them back, then flew away, never to return. I suppose the last time she went in, she laid the egg among the little worms. And then, her duty done, was off to find another good place to start a family.
Did you say her duty or the duty?
And then, her duty done, was off to find another good place to start a family.
Good enough.
Have you ever seen a big cicada which makes the long rasping sound in the trees? Some wasps like these very much for food. So, when cicada sings, Mrs. Wasp swoops down on it, stings it, and then, big and clumsy as it is, carries it to her home for her children to feast upon. A cicada is 3 or 4 times as large as a wasp, isn't it? Asked Mrs. Reese. Yes, but there is nothing the wasps can't do, replied Ben Gile. I should think not, exclaimed Peter, who by this time was able to smile again.
The trout are ready, Ben, said Adam. And everything else too, I guess.
With the running and laughter, the children were soon about the fire. With the running and laughter, the children were soon about the fire, eating their last delicious out-of-door dinner.
Конец. Конец наконец-то. Okay, so I'm going to export that and upload it. This was a Librivox recording. Recorded by Brett Phillips. I thought I had that recorded somewhere. End of chapter. Is that it? No.
Chapter 15 of Little Busybodies, the life of crickets, ants, bees.
Okay, here we're going to do it right here. End of chapter 15. Mute. Record. End of chapter 15. No, okay, ready? End of chapter 15. End of chapter 15. Слышно? End of chapter 15. Hello. If I was getting paid, I would try harder.
Eating their last delicious out-of-door dinner.
End of chapter 15. Okay, thanks for watching. My eyeball is all red and sore. Time to go to bed. So next I have to record chapter 16. That equals 16, doesn't it? I'm not Roman. Yep. 10, 5, and 1, 16. Eyes and no eyes. So that's another big one. The evening party at Ben Gile's cabin was to be the last of all the beautiful summer. For the next day, Betty and Jimmy were to leave with their mother for the city. And this was the evening which was to decide who was to receive the prize. Okay, I don't care. I'm going to bed. Ending transmission.